Welcome to Life on the Bubble. I'm Andy Katz, pleased to be joined by my good friend, former colleague, trusted confidant, Seth Greenberg, as we break down the East region here for the 2023 men's basketball NCAA tournament. We start with number one Purdue. They will take on the winner of Texas Southern, Fairleigh Dickinson. We know they're going to win that game.
Whoa! Wait a second. We know they're going to win that game. Harvard on the Hackensack. I mean, the alma mater. You just diss the alma mater just like that. I mean, that's
What do you mean you
unbelievable.
win the league? They didn't win the ACC.
That's almost disrespectful. I mean, you say my confidant, and then you absolutely trash my alma mater. That is unbelievable.
My alma mater didn't make it, so there you go.
I think they're going to win the playing game, Fairleigh Dickinson, but I think that they'll have a little bit of. They'll probably have to put stack guys on top of each other to figure out how to guard Zach Edey. There's an issue there.
Let's talk about Purdue for a minute. They were the number one team in the country for a number of weeks. I was there in Chicago. I sat there on that Big Ten Network desk, and I said, Zach Edey, Big Ten Player of the Year. He's a leader for National Player of the Year. But now let's see if he seizes this moment on this stage. And you know what? Not that he had to listen to me, but he did. He was even better in the Big Ten tournament. Multiple 30-point games, rebounding. I mean, no one could stop him once he got it in that low post. Doesn't really commit many fouls. Now, how he's officiated in the NCAA tournament, in the Big Ten, guys are leaning into him. They're pushing on his back. They're by his tailbone. And he gets frustrated, but we'll see how it's officiated in the NCAA tournament. Their guards, as Matt Painter, I love Matt because he would just say, look, we do work on passing and catching. Sometimes, it just doesn't work, but yes, they got pressured. It caused problems, late game situations, especially even at the end against Penn State. That's an issue. They're going to have to solve it. It could be the thing that does them in, but I feel like Zach Edey's even gotten better. Mason Gillis is playing better.
Man, will you stop already? I mean, not like the Big Ten breakdowns. I mean, goodness gracious. We're sitting on the Big Ten desk. Goodness gracious. Will you stop? Yes, we know. Zach Edey is a large human being. He's impossible to officiate. You play on the side of him. They throw over the top. You play behind him. He backs you down. They do a good job of feeding him from the top. All that stuff. They're hard to play against. Their guards got to play consistently. They got to get consistent play, especially Fletcher Lawyer's got to make shots. Mason Gillis is playing well. We'll get to them in the next round. Let's go to the next game. Boy, I'll tell you one thing. It is amazing. You get a couple shekels from someone, and you are it's unbelievable. I mean, you got a Big Ten Network dropped in there. You got sitting on the desk dropped in there, and you basically broke down everything that you could possibly want to know about Purdue.
All right.
I agree.
Okay. Also in Columbus, the team that definitely could take them down, which we'll get to in a little bit here. Of the 8-9 games, to me, this is the one that is not as balanced as it could be. Maybe I'll be wrong, but you got Memphis taking on Florida Atlantic. Now, Florida Atlantic, Dusty made great job, win over 30 games in a very weak Conference USA. Memphis, Kendrick Davis put on a show. I know Marcus Sasser didn't play, but they finally took down Houston. They're playing their best basketball at the right time. They're long, they're athletic. Your thoughts on this 8-9 matchup in Columbus?
I'm really impressed with what Rob Penny's done. I mean, really. I mean, they've gotten better. Finally have a point guard. I call him a ball guard in Kendrick Davis. His ability to run offense, yet score, be selectively aggressive. Has been really impressive. DeAndre Williams, he's older than probably every guy on the Oklahoma City Thunder. I mean, it's unbelievable. The guy's old. They have a maturity about him, this Memphis team, that they haven't had. They've always been good defensively. I think they're really good offensively right now. They're playing well. They're playing with confidence. FAU's got the great win against Florida, and that was a big-time win. Having said that, and they come out with you with numbers. I mean, their two leading scorers coming off the bench. They shoot, about 37% three-point line. They're a physical defensive team. They run real motion, which could be a problem because it's easy to defend plays. It's hard to defend motion. But I think that I've been really impressed with what Penny's done this year. I really have. I think that how they're playing has been just as a team and the trust that they've had. Now, I do think that, there'll be some problems. Vladislav Golden is a legitimate low post scorer, and they do a good job, FAU, playing through him. The pace that FAU plays with, the ability to turn people over, their depth, all those things are in their favor. But I just think that Memphis has figured it out, understanding that they have a guy that they can play through in Williams and a guy who they can put the ball in their hands in Kendrick Davis.
So who are you picking?
I'm picking Memphis.
Yes, so am I. So we have a Purdue-Memphis game on Sunday in Columbus. We'll get to that momentarily. Okay, 5-12. Before the bracket came out, I wanted to pick Oral Roberts against someone. The problem is...
Well, that someone isn't Duke.
There you go. And that's why when we get this close to the bracket, everyone's, oh, who you got? Who you got? I say, I got to see who they're matched up with. Because if Oral Roberts was against someone else, I might have picked them. I'm not picking them here. Duke's playing their best basketball of the year. They're healthy. Connor Vanover is not Kevin O'Banner in terms of a big with Max Asmus from a couple years ago when they got the Sweet 16. So I like Duke here. I guess the flip side is, how can Oral Roberts beat Duke?
Well, first let's talk about Duke. What makes Duke so good? Well, they're 18-1 when they have their whole lineup. The move for Tyrese Proctor to the point and Roche to the two guard has been really, really brilliant by John Shire. He showed agility in terms of how he's coaching his team. And he showed great leadership, to be honest with you. Mark Mitchell understands his role now. The development of Derek Lively has been huge in terms of rim runner, rim protector, does a really good job of rolling off of ball screens, playing in the dunker spot. Derek Whitehead buying into coming off the bench. Ryan Young buying into coming off the bench. Jacob Granderson buying into coming off the bench. That's been really impressive. Look, Max Asmus, he can get it going. I think Tyrese Proctor is one of the better perimeter defenders I've seen. I don't think Oral Roberts wins this game. They're not good enough defensively. They are top 30 in offensive efficiency. They don't turn it over. They get good shots, but this is a bad matchup for them.
So we agree. The game's Thursday in Orlando. Duke wins. I actually thought Duke was going to be a 4 in Greensboro, not a 5 in Orlando. Also in Orlando on Thursday, a beleaguered Tennessee taking on Louisiana. Again, and this is me here. This is a 4-13 game. I think if Tennessee was playing a different team, I might pick them to lose in the first game. The problem is they are playing, Louisiana, and I'm not as
Jordan Brown started at Nevada. That's one of your Mountain West schools, and then he went to Arizona. Don't you have a little lean on that way? You got a Mountain West guy that hung out in the Mountain West a little bit, 7-footer, was a big time recruit at one point. No.
All right, so I don't. I'm not believing in this team. But let's talk about Tennessee without Zakai Ziegler. How can they win this game and at least advance potentially?
Well, look, they have to play point guard by committee. It puts a lot on the plate of Santi Vescovi. It just really does. Here you're talking about he's really good off the ball. They're going to have to probably advance pass, get in their offense, and go from there. It's not like they're going to have the ball in his hands and he's just going to go make a play like Ziegler does. They don't have that really, really locked down perimeter on the basketball defender. And you saw that when they played Auburn at the end of the season. Wendell Green goes for 27. They didn't have a guy that could just sit down and sit in the stand, stay in front of them, make life miserable. I like when Rick plays small and goes with Josiah Jordan James at the 4 because that relieves some pressure off the ball handlers. He can be a secondary ball handler. We know they're going to defend. It's whether they get stuck offensively. I don't think they get stuck offensively in this game, but Bobby Marlin's done a great job at Lafayette, man. He's done a great job. He's a terrific coach, great guy, lifer. So impressed with what he's done. So happy for him. But I think Rick will have his team ready to play. I don't see an upset there.
All right, so before we go to the bottom part of the East, we both agree with a Purdue-Memphis and a Duke-Tennessee. Purdue-Memphis. And I will say this, I think you'll agree with me on this, Seth, that because there tend to be upsets in other parts of the bracket, and we saw this last year, Carolina played a 15 St. Peter's in the Elite Eight. I have found historically that for the 1 seed, sometimes the hardest game is the second round game because you know you're getting a good team, an 8-9. They're good. Whereas in that Sweet 16 Elite 8, a lot of times it's a double-digit team. Someone got upset, but you know for sure there's a good game in that second round. And here we are. If this happens, Purdue, Memphis. What do you see?
Well, here's the problem. It's a hard matchup for Purdue, and that Memphis is going to get up underneath them. And when you get up underneath Purdue, your goal is to push them out a step. If you can push them out a step, then all of a sudden that post-entry pass is longer, and now all of a sudden the defense can recover. So you can fight Edey. Maybe he has to step off the block to catch it because it's such a long pass. You can extend your defense, which Penny will do, try to turn him over, get some score ahead of the defense, which is important because what's underrated about Purdue is their defense and the impact Edey has defensively. So this will be the uglier the game gets, the faster the game gets, the more physical the game gets. In the backcourt, the better it is going to be for Memphis. They do have a guy that can take over a game. And Kendrick Davis, he can take over a game. He can come off high spreads. He can come off drags. He can come off double drags. He can come off drop coverage, and snake it. I think Purdue's going to win this game, but I think it is going to be a close game right down to the very end.
I agree with you. I think this one is going to be I think this would be the hardest game for them to get to the Final Four in this bracket. They obviously, we can talk about this next week if they get there. And I know it was early, but Edey's also better. But they did beat Duke and Marquette early in the season. But we'll see what happens. All right, Duke, Tennessee. Who do you like?
Yeah, I like Duke. I don't think. Look, Duke's got 14 feet of post player. Kyle Filipowski is just a brutal matchup. Lively, and he's going to probably be guarded by Olivia Kamwa, who's a very good defender, but he hasn't played against a guy like Filipowski. And then in the backcourt, I think that the defensive pressure by Duke and Duke's ability to offensive rebound, even against a Tennessee team that's a good defensive rebounding team, Duke's ability to attack certain matchups, maybe go at Vescovi early so that make him guard. I think that those things will become a factor. So I like Duke in this game. I just think Duke right now, forget about, they're playing their best basketball. They've all given up a little bit for the good of the group. They have complete buy-in and started defensively, but their offense is caught up to their defense right now. The ball doesn't get stuck. Late game, they know exactly where they're going. They're making plays for each other. They're going back to hot hands. All the things you need to do in the tournament to make sure that you continue to advance, they're doing them.
Well, let me just say I agree with you, and I just think, and I would be there for that because that's where I'm going to be, a Purdue-Duke game on a Thursday night at Madison Square Garden. Wow.
No, that would be you know what that's going to be? That's going to be Cameron North is what that's going to be.
Yes. The atmosphere is going to be off the charts if that happens. All right, let's go to the bottom part of the bracket. These games are in Greensboro. We've got Kentucky, Providence, and K-State, Montana State. Again, the 6-11 game, at the beginning of the season, Kentucky was projected to be much higher than this. Providence not even in this game, not even in the tournament. Bryce Hopkins obviously is a big story. Played at Kentucky, playing at Providence. But Providence is not playing well.
It's a conspiracy matchup, Andy. It's a conspiracy matchup.
Yes, but they're not playing well. Now, two of those games they lost were to UConn, and they did lose to Seton Hall, but they're going in the wrong direction. Kentucky, again, if they're not playing Vanderbilt, they have played well, but outside of Andy. But, again, we don't know which team we're going to get. What do you think?
I think Kentucky's good. Look, they're going to be ready to play. After what happened last year against St. Pete, they're going to be ready to play. Now, they're going to have to do some things to win this game. I mean, Providence plays really hard. They're undersized, but they get to the glass. Hopkins obviously is a matchup problem, and obviously that'll be Jacob Toppin's matchup, a guy he played against every single day in practice a year ago. In the backcourt, Carter's going to try to get up and under Case and Wallace, which will be interesting to see if he can do that. Be interesting also to see if Xavier Wheeler is back, because he might be able to, maybe give him 10 minutes where he can just bust something out and get out in transition, come off a screen, get downhill, get to the rim. I think in the end, I liked until the other day, I liked the way Kentucky was starting to defend. Casey Wallace was good on the ball, but he just came back off injury. Jacob Topping was basically, I think he went 13 out of 14 double-figure scoring. He was rebounding the ball. He was playing some high-low basketball with Oscar, which is important. Antonio Reeves knows where his shots are coming from. He shot it poorly against Vanderbilt. Uh, as long as Kentucky brings the fight, because Providence will bring the fight. As long as Kentucky brings the fight, I think they win this game.
I agree with you as well. All right, K-State, Montana State, back-to-back Big Sky champs. Eastern Washington was probably the best team in the regular season. I love this K-State team. Keontae Johnson, one of the best stories in college basketball. He collapsed December 12th, 2020 at Florida, had to be resuscitated, makes this comeback, can't play at Florida, plays at K-State. Remember, this is a player who was the SEC preseason player of the year. He's had a great year, an All-American year. He was actually just named an All-American, but so was Marquise Noel, his teammate. They're both AP All-Americans. And Jerome Tang waited. Right opportunity, gets this job. I like Kansas State here for sure against Kentucky. Your thoughts in this matchup in Greensboro against Montana State?
Yeah, I like Kansas State. I like what Jerome's done. I like the energy that they play with. Naquan Tomlin also is another tough matchup up front. Uh, I look at them and I look at a team that has a number of different guys that can score it. I like the pace that they play with. Short clock, they have some really good isolations that they run for Keontae Johnson. Noel gifts him out in transition, gets some easy buckets. Big 12's brutal. I think getting out of the Big 12 will be a breath of fresh air. And I think that they'll win this game.
All right, so we agree. So we've got a Kentucky-Kansas State game in Greensboro. We'll get to the pick here in a minute. Bottom part of the East bracket, Michigan State, USC, 7:10, Marquette, Vermont at 2:15 in Columbus. So Michigan State, USC, to me, these are two very similar teams. They've also been wildly inconsistent. I love the matchup between Tyson Walker and Boogie Ellis. Both guys can go off for 30. Both schools and coaches probably disappointed in how their conference tournaments ended. And I kind of feel like this is a pick 'em because I could see it going either way.
Yeah, there's a couple of matchups that will be interesting. I think, Drew Peterson's a hard matchup for Michigan State, depending on where they play him. I think, obviously, the matchup is really A.J. Hoggard and Boogie Ellis, those two guys will go at it pretty good.
That's the matchup, offense, defense. I was just saying, of the two teams, the guys that can go off, Walker and Ellis.
Yeah, Walker's so good at the end of games. He really is a good finisher. He comes off those different angled ball screens that they run, and he plays with great confidence. The backcourt of Michigan State really struggled in the Big Ten tournament. Really disappointed. I know Tom was really disappointed. I'm sure their practice has been a lot of fun. This is a very good defensive team for USC. Peterson, Ellis obviously have a lot invested in this thing. I think Joey Hauser, I think Malik Hall could be the difference in this game. And I don't, like the whole idea about, January, February it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with their backcourt is good, but their backcourt needs to show up and be ready to play. And if their backcourt's ready to play, then all of a sudden the game gets easier for Joey. It gets easier for Malik Hall. It gets easier for Akins. The game just gets easier. So shot selection, taking care of the ball. Michigan State's done a good job with that this year. They're an elite three-point shooting team. They'll rebound the basketball. They have not guarded worth a lick. They haven't guarded at all. And they've got to be up to guard in this game because Boogie can go off. But I think they will guard better. I know that's been a point of emphasis this week for Tom in practice and talking with him. And I think they advance in this game.
I agree with you. Who will they play? I think Marquette, Tyler Kolek. No one had him as the preseason Big East Player of the Year. There he was winning the regular season conference tournament. Going against John Becker's Vermont Catamounts. They won the America East again. 7th straight year they've had the America East Player of the Year. This time it's Finn Sullivan, who started his career at San Diego. Again, could Vermont pull off an upset? Maybe, but this is the wrong one, in my opinion. I like Marquette to continue the run they're on. Shock has done an unbelievable job with this group. So I have a Marquette-Michigan State matchup in Columbus. What say you?
Yeah, Marquette. Tyler Kolek's the best passer in college basketball. He might be one of the best guards overall in college basketball. That team has an epidemic of passing. They share the basketball. The ball doesn't get stuck. The ball has energy. He sees all 5 defenders at all time. He ignites their transition game. Cam Jones obviously is a big-time scorer to complement him, but I think it's their front court that doesn't get enough attention. I think those two bigs, Prosper and Oso Igdaro, are as skilled and as good at passing, ball-handling bigs as there are in the country, and they also have versatility in terms of defending. This isn't havoc, but they do turn you over. To me, it's havoc offensively. on the pace they play with and the spacing they play with and how aggressive they are and how freed up they are offensively. So I've got Marquette advancing there.
All right. So to get to the Sweet 16 in New York, to join Duke and Purdue, we've got K-State, Kentucky, Kansas State. Michigan State, Marquette. Which two teams join Duke and Purdue at MSG?
I think Kentucky wins their game. I think Kentucky finds a way against Kansas State to win. I think that again, I look at matchups. I think matchups are so important. I think that they got to contain Noel. And that's Case and Wallace's matchup. Yep. And Case and Wallace is an elite on-ball defender. He's a physical on-ball defender. Now, the key is in this game is going to be defensive transition because in the Vanderbilt game and the games that Kentucky has struggled, their defensive transition has not been good enough. They've got to get back, build a wall, and guard the basketball. All right, they can't just follow the flight of the ball. They can't just jog back. They got to outnumber the ball in transition. Jacob Toppin's going to have to run the floor with Keontae Johnson or Marquise or Tomlin. And that's going to be really, really important because if you go back and you chart it, the games that Kentucky's done has not played well as they haven't guarded. They've done a poor job in defensive transition, and they just give up too many easy scoring opportunities. So Kentucky's going to rebound the ball. They got to set their defense. They got to keep Marquise Noel out of the lane. They got to keep Naquan Tomlin off of the glass, and then they've got to come early to help and make Keontae Johnson a passer, even if it means running a second defender at him. They do that, and they play with the confidence and sense of purpose. I think John's done a really good job offensively of freeing up Reeves, getting the ball inside to Oscar some, letting Oscar play off the post, off the elbow some, on the baseline some, on curls and pops. I think Kentucky wins that game.
Wow. Can you imagine that ticket if Kentucky and Duke are at the Garden for the Sweet 16 on that Thursday? That would be an incredible.
Only guys as rich as you could get those tickets.
They wouldn't be playing each other unless they got to the Elite Eight.
And you'll be a Duke homer anyway because your son's going to Duke. So, I mean, so now you got the Big Ten covered, you got Duke covered, you got the Mountain West covered, you got the A-10. I mean, who don't you have covered?
All right, I'm going to go K-State. I'm going to say they upset Kentucky, even though it's not a seed upset. All right, Marquette, Michigan State. Do you have Marquette going back to the Garden where they just won the Big East tournament?
Yeah, I do. I like this Marquette team. I like their toughness. I like Kolek. I think he plays with a lot of freedom. Now they're going to have to rebound the ball, and they're going to have to guard in the half court a little bit more purposely. But Marquette's energy, Marquette's backcourt, Marquette's skilled front court, Marquette's spacing against the Michigan State team that has not shown me their ability to get stops consistently. I've got Marquette winning this game.
I do too. So we have a little bit of a difference. We have Duke, Purdue. I have Kansas State, Marquette. You have Kentucky, Marquette. And man, that's going to be one hot ticket in Madison Square Garden. That could definitely be the hottest ticket outside of, we'll see what happens out west in Las Vegas. But no question about it. That would be an unbelievable regional semi-potential final in the East bracket in Madison Square Garden. That's our East breakdown at Seth on Hoops, at the Andy Katz. Of course, go to wherever you find your podcast to find Life on the Bubble. Thanks for listening.